Welcome back to a shortened episode of Defend Philly. I'm Vani Hanamirian, and alongside Louis Coco, we decided to do a special episode honoring the late Bernie Perrant.
Yeah, it was shocking news over the weekend. Yesterday, Sunday, September 21st, Philadelphia learned after, at least I learned when I saw the Flyers posted. I don't know who had the news first, but Bernie Perrant died at the age of 80. An absolute legend in Philadelphia, even beyond the sport of hockey. He was an unbelievable community member. He was just, I mean, I've been hearing it all morning. I was working with the morning show this morning at WIP, and countless people telling stories. Ray Didinger had a beautiful story that maybe we'll get into a little bit later
He
about
just
Bernie and
seemed
just
like a
his warmth.
man of Philadelphia. He cared about the community, and then on the ice, like fully a legend. But he was I was talking to you about this. So you actually broke the news to me
Oh,
about Bernie
did I
Perrant
really?
dying, and I was at the Eagles game, and you could just tell based on the way that when they announced it and they did a moment of silence for him, it must have been an hour after he had died. A standing ovation in the crowd. Everyone was up. Just because he had such an impact on Philadelphia and he was just such a good person. And so hearing the stories, everyone has a story or some connection to Bernie Perrant. And so again, great guy, fantastic goalie, great person outside of his career, especially, which I think is what made him so impactful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, just his warmth too. That's the overarching theme that I've been seeing and hearing from people is he was just one of a kind. I mean, Joe DeCamera talked about it. He actually saw him 3 weeks ago, and Joe said when he saw Bernie, he was at an event. He saw Bernie, and he said he looks a little bit more frail than normal. And Joe said, "I'm gonna, I'm in it internally." He said, "I'm gonna ask him how he's doing." And so Joe says, "Hey, Bernie, how do you feel?" And Bernie replies with my hands. And it was just kind of that's Bernie Perrant's sense of humor. I mean, he's always cracking a joke. It was just and Joe said he was confused for a second. It took him, he was like, wait a minute. He's making a joke in light of, maybe not feeling so good. Apparently the news came out that he's been dealing with some back issues and
Injured since the car crash, I believe.
I
Yeah.
guess, yeah,
Yeah.
and some other maybe. I mean, I haven't seen have you seen anything about
I
um
haven't seen anything. Honestly, no, I haven't seen anything.
yeah,
I think that they've kind of kept that private, which I
I think you're right.
am proud of the internet for keeping it
Me too. Me
and
too.
not diving deep because I think
Yep.
sometimes we have issues with that. But he
Issues with it.
definitely was a legend. And so even earlier, we filmed an episode of our podcast. What was it? A week ago? A little less than a week
Yeah,
ago?
it was like Wednesday or something.
And tell them about what happened before the show.
Yeah, it's funny. So that day, the common theme maybe you've seen on our podcast is we both try and wear something that's Flyers oriented. I can't promise that that will always be the case, but the first few pods, I've been trying to wear a Flyers jersey or a shirt.
It's
You know,
unofficial. We both kind of just did it and we kept
yeah,
it going.
and we didn't even talk about it either. It was just kind of one of those things. And so, I'm looking through my closet. I have a few Flyers jerseys, and I saw this one, and I was like, oh, I'll wear this one. And I sat down to do the pod with Vonnie, and again, this is middle of last week, and I said to myself like, oh look, there's a signature on my chest, and I don't know
Yep, there it
everyone
is.
if everyone can see that, but that's Bernie Perrant's signature. And like I said, this is before anything. This was middle of last week, and I just thought nothing of it. I was like, that's kind of cool. Like Bernie Perrant, yeah, I should wear the jersey. It's Bernie Perrant's signature. And then, yeah, sure enough, on Sunday we got the news, and I said to Vonnie right before we started filming this, I was like, I hadn't even touched this jersey, when I was looking at jerseys to wear for the pod or something to wear for the pod, and we filmed a number of times, and we've done some content and things, and I've never
Yeah.
picked this one up until early last week, and so that was kind of a chill went through me there when we kind of realized that. But I mean, Bernie's such a legend. They say only God saves more than Bernie, and
Yes.
some
Yes, yes.
somebody said it today on the morning show that yesterday God saved Bernie, which was cool.
Yeah, definitely. And so we were both too young to see him play, obviously, but we saw him post-career, involved with the Flyers. I know, I was sorry, do you have any stories
Yeah,
about it, or do you want
you
me to just
go with your
Okay,
story
I'll go first.
first.
So I actually got the chance to meet Bernie Parent, and I know that a lot of people in media are a lot older than I am. I'm only 21, so I haven't had a lot of opportunities to interact with him, but I was 7 years old and I was at a Flyers game with my dad. And I was sitting at a table, this like little chubby 7 year old, um, wearing, I think I was probably wearing my Briere jersey.
Nice.
And he came over, he was walking around and he came over to our table and I was like a giddy kid. So I'm like smiling up at him. And my dad told me this story and he was like, he was talking to me a little bit and then he looked at me and he was like, "Do you want to try on my ring?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I tried on the ring and I put it on and obviously it didn't fit, but it was like so cool. I remember that to this day. Like I just like put on that ring and I was like, "Oh, that's sick." And then he walked away and I was like, "Okay, Dad, like tell me." So tell me the story. And so he told me the story about Bernie Prine, who he was and what he's done. And then I begged for Christmas that year for a poster. So I had a poster of him on my
Oh,
wall. Actually, I think it was for Christmas or I got it at a game. But I remember I had a poster of him on my wall for a while on like my Flyers wall. And so he was just a legend and he was one of the first players from I guess back then that I was introduced to because I was it was the start of my hockey interest and my fandom. Like I loved hockey after that point, but it was the active players at that point. It was Briere, it was Wayne Simmons, but then he was kind of the first older player that I followed.
yeah, and it sounds like, you know, even for those guys when we were growing up, the active players, the Brieres, the Giroux, those guys were even influenced by Perrant. I mean, he was.
Yeah.
I know at one point, he was a partial. He was in some sort of executive role, so he was around the team a lot. You know, in those years, probably when we were growing up, I don't know exactly what years it was. But he was even the goalie coach at one point, and he would go back. Ray, I think it was Ray Didinger
Yes.
this morning was talking about Bernie would go back and he would talk to the players, and Rhea Hughes kind of echoed this sentiment as well. As he would go back and he would talk to the players and he would motivate guys, and you know he would go into the locker room and everyone would light up. And it
Yeah.
was, you know, he had been retired for a while, but Bernie was always around the team and just a true legend in Philadelphia as a human
Yes,
outside of hockey.
definitely. And even just like hearing Rick Tocchet get emotional
Yeah.
talking about him was very moving just to show the impact he had. And I'm excited to see, not excited, but I'm hopeful that they will wear a patch at the minimum to honor
Yeah.
him this season. But I'm curious to see what else they do. I know that moment of silence is really gonna
Hit hard.
hit hard during that first game
Yeah.
back. Yeah. I mean, because he's been, it's not like he just played. We've emphasized this a lot, but he's been involved on every level. He's involved with the youth, he's been involved with the current team, he's been involved with the community, just trying to bring hockey to Philadelphia. And I think the only real way that, like, the real thing that we need to do is we need to go out there and we need to have a good season or play well. I'm
Yeah, I
excited to see
mean,
how the Flyers play this season.
me too. I think, you know, when this type of stuff happens, it seems to kind of light a fire under a team, and especially somebody that's so iconic. Not even again, not even just to the crest, like not even just to the orange and black. It's to the whole city. And you know, we are the city of brotherly love, and every team that plays in Philadelphia talks about the feeling they get in the city from the fans, from the other teams. So yeah, I mean, I would be surprised if there's not some sort of extra juice from the Flyers this year, and you know, even just you know, would like you said, I would hope to see some sort of patch. Or I
Yep.
saw
Yep.
somebody tweeting something about you know, it's feels inevitable that they'll have a patch or some way to honor
Yes.
Bernie. Um,
Yes.
and you spoke about community. My little story with Bernie. My dad was a part of starting a cancer charity. It was a hockey tournament. It's called Face Off Against Cancer. And it was a hockey tournament, and you know teams got together and raised money, and they would play in this tournament, and the winning team got to play in the Flyers, got to play against the Flyers alumni, and one of the first few years that the Face Off Against Cancer was up and running, Bernie Perrant was there, and my dad sent me a picture of him and my dad's best friend from college. They both played hockey together in college, and they got a picture with Bernie, and he's got his rings on. And my dad was a goal. My dad grew up playing goalie, and I grew up playing a little bit of goalie, so I've always had a soft spot for goalies, and so it's
Oh,
it's definitely it's tough to see a legend like that. And we lost Ken Dryden the week before, and then there was let me look up the other goalie's name.
yeah. And I also think it's really important to think about when we talk about like our legends in Philadelphia sports history, our Mount Rushmores. Like Bernie Perrant was one of those names that was thrown up there for Flyers legends, even legends in the community in general. And so his impact is known beyond hockey. And I think there are unfortunately only a few names that come to mind when you think of Philadelphia Flyers legends that are still up there competing with the guys now, like in that Mount Rushmore of Philadelphia athletes. And he was definitely one of them, not only just on the ice, but again, off the ice too. He really made an impact and he made hockey known in Philadelphia.
Yeah. And I certainly feel for his wife too.
Yes.
Jeannie. My dad, her and my dad didn't cross paths in high school, but they went to the same high school, and there's been some contact back and forth through like the Face Off Against Cancer thing. And
Yeah.
I can't say that I had a personal relationship with Bernie, and I don't think my dad would say necessarily that he had a personal relationship with Bernie either, but it felt like you did. It doesn't matter who you are, and if you met Bernie or you came across him, the overall sentiment is that he made you feel as comfortable as possible, and made you feel like you were, friends from the beginning. And that's just the kind
Yeah.
of guy that Bernie was.
His energy radiated and it spread, and you can tell by the amount of people that are talking about him. And even like we don't have personal connections, but we know of him and we can talk to who he was as a person based off of everything we've heard because he really was just such an incredible person like that. And I will say my favorite Bernie story, which I think was one that I shared with you when we were just started working together, was the video of him going up to the lemonade stand down the shore and buying lemonade from this kid. And I think his wife posted it and was like, this kid has no idea who's buying lemonade from him. And it was so funny. And it was such a cute moment to see him like going out there and interacting with the community and just in a really like rare moment where that little kid was probably like 7. And he'll always say, like, I tried on Bernie's ring. Like
Yeah.
Bernie bought lemonade from him, which is just like such a cute story. And those little things that,
Yep.
he didn't have to go out of his way to do, but he did to kind of make an impact on young people and even like just everyone, make an impact in every single life he touched. He made better, I think.
Yeah. And
Definitely.
he will be missed not only in the NHL community, but in Philadelphia. It was a tough day yesterday. I mean, obviously the Eagles won a walk-off game, and it was exciting for the city, but at the same time a little bit bittersweet because we lost a legend yesterday in Bernie Perrant.
Definitely. Okay, well, thank you everyone for tuning in. Our condolences go out to anyone who had a direct relationship with Bernie. And per usual, we will keep you updated with our next post and we will hopefully be at training camp soon. So thank you for tuning in to this shortened episode and we'll see you next time.